everyone. So I have my first process video for you using the brand new Meadow collection. I'm going to be focusing on this tulip paper, and I'm going to do a couple of really fun things with it. So the first step is I definitely just want to do an 8.5 by 11 layout. And I think I'm going to use that photo there that I took of my niece, but I'm not. I'm going to switch it up. So I actually auditioned a bunch of pictures for this layout. I'm just going to trim this down, and then I'm going to cut it a little bit so that it's just 8.5 across. And that's going to leave me with a little scrap that I'm going to set aside, and I will use that on another project later on. So I want to make sure that I have this kind of centered the way I want, and then I'm going to fussy cut this. So Alexandra Ranki paper is very, very thick. So this was quite a fun little couple of, well, I can say about 20 minutes, maybe half hour to fussy cut everything. And of course, I'm not going to make you watch me that. I'm not going to make you watch that. So I fussy cut all around the flowers, and now I want to do a little bit of mixed media on the back of my cards, on my base paper. I'm using Basil Marshmallow cardstock, and I'm just going to do a packaging technique, and I'm going to use a selection of Shimmer's paints. I have Moulin Rouge, Pink Caviar, Limoncello, and Lilac Blossom. And I'm just going to go ahead. I cut 4 sheets of plastic packaging so that I could do a different color on each little bit of plastic packaging, and I just used really small pieces of plastic packaging. I seem to just kind of, that's where I go with my packaging mixed media when I do it. I'm not good at the packaging technique really, but when I do it, I definitely use smaller pieces of plastic packaging, and I love my Shimmer's paints. So those little pots of paints, they have my heart. So I'm just gonna go here and just, yeah, smush it down. I am using a baby wipe because I want this to be subtle. I don't want it to, or not a baby wipe, a paper towel to pick up the excess, because I do want it to be subtle. I don't want it to be super harsh or, you know, really bright. And I'm just going to go through and I'm going to do all these colors and kind of mimic that half moon design from the, what's it called? The piece I cut apart. I'm umming today. I'm so sorry, guys. Yeah, see, look, I'm umming today. This Lilac Blossom is super duper pretty. I really love how this turned out. I think it turned out just exactly the way that I wanted it to, which is unusual for me, but it did turn out really good. And I'm just going to splatter a little bit. And then I also pulled out Gold Christmas Cheer, and I am going to go ahead and use that Christmas Cheer, which is a gold paint. I'm just going to use that a little bit along with the Limoncello to give it just a little more shimmer and shine. But there is so much shimmer and shine on this background. I'm really happy with how it turned out. In case you were wondering, I am super proud of myself for doing this. I did a good job. It kind of just worked exactly the way it worked I thought it would go in my head, which is unusual for packaging techniques and mixed medias. But I really wanted that look, and I wanted all 4 colors. I did leave the colors dry a little bit in between, and that helps to make sure that the colors don't get muddy. And here's that Christmas Cheer. So I'm just kind of sprinkling it all around. And then here what I did was there's this little bit of like white in the middle between these 2 colors, and I wasn't caring for it. So I'm just going to go in with my paintbrush and kind of smush it around, and then I'm going to just take an extra piece of packaging and kind of pop it on top to give it that same look, to give it that same kind of mottled look, so it's one big piece. And then I'm going to let that set aside to dry. I left the entire mixed media process in there so you could see it. And now I'm going to work on this fussy cut piece. I'm going to stitch it. So I'm going to poke tiny holes in all of the little green tendrils between the flowers. And I'm going to stitch over it with that lovely green thread right there. And yeah, I did it. I put a little like sneak peek onto Instagram, kind of showing my process or showing how I went through and hand stitched all those green leaves. I think it made them pop. I think it turned out gorgeous. I love it so much. It did take a long time though. It probably took me a night and then the next day. So here is my piece all ready to go. So now I'm trying to decide what photo I want. I really like that photo. I like both of these photos I took of my niece, but I wasn't super happy. I really like this one, but I felt like the background and the stitching overwhelmed that photo. And but I really wanted to use a photo of my boys on this layout because I had worked so hard on this background and I really wanted to use a photo of my boys. So I went through tons of photos and I decided on these two. So these two are two photos of my son, my oldest son, and the one day my niece was at our house because I watch her every Thursday, and the two of them were hanging out on the floor, and it was really cute and really sweet. And it's just so funny to see him because he's so big, like he's 6'3", and he weighs 200 pounds, but he's so gentle and kind and sweet with this teeny tiny little baby. So those are the photos I'm going to kind of decide I'm going to use. I'm just flicking through all of them to make sure I'm not missing one that would be a better fit for this layout. But those are the two photos that I go with. I felt like the photos had enough contrast against the background that you weren't losing the photos with the background, and the colors coordinated and worked really well. So I'm using a ton of Scotch foam mounting tape and some thin 3D foam adhesives because there were so many tiny parts on this piece that I was so scared of catching it. I wanted everything that was sticking out, everything that was a little bit weak and delicate. I wanted to make sure all those delicate pieces were adhered to the page nice and strong. And so not only am I going to put all of these foam squares and all this foam mounting tape, but then because my background is shimmer, so it's paint, and the shimmer's paint is really nice, but any kind of mixed media, you really need some wet glue. So on top of all of this extra foam, I'm going to pull all this foam off, and then I'm going to go back through and put wet glue on top of the foam tape. I was just so determined that this piece was not going to rip or tear or catch, and it was going to stick where I needed it to stick. More foam squares. I think I might have gone through almost a whole pack of foam squares putting this down, but it was totally worth it because there is nothing. When I work so long on a piece for a page, with all that stitching and all that fussy cutting and all those delicate little flowers sticking out, I want it to stick. I don't want it to catch when I put it in an album. I don't want it to catch while I'm photographing it. I want it to stay put. I don't want any pieces that are going to fly off. So I did have to trim it down a little bit, which totally fine. There wasn't any stitching or anything there that was going to come loose. And that's not going anywhere, just so we're clear. Not going anywhere. So I went ahead and next I'm going to try to decide how I want my photos to go. Now I will say this, because I had glued them down so far, I was wanting to tuck my photos like underneath or around something, but because of how much I had glued and stuck this down, I couldn't really tuck the photos in too much, which honestly, if I had to do it again, I'd do the same thing because it's okay if my photos don't exactly tuck in to that piece in the background. I can work with that, but so I'm just going to decide where I want the photos to go, and then I'm going to go through and play first layout using a new kit and overwhelmed by the amount of embellishments that come in the kit. So yeah, I'm going to go through all the embellishments, try to decide what I want to grab, what I want to use. I decide on some of the wood veneer butterflies, which I'm going to alter a little bit. And then I'm going to go through all of these die cuts that came in the exclusive die cut pack. I'm going to stick with just those little dragonflies. I think those dragonflies are a huge hit because I've seen some of the design team, the layouts and things that they have created with this kit already, and everyone seems to be like, I want to use those dragonflies first. And I was exactly the same way. So I'm just going to fiddle, decide where I want placement to go. I'm going to use one of the acetate phrases and one of the die cuts to create my title, which is Love This View, because I really love these photos, and I love, you know, just how sweet those two are together. So the next thing I want to do is I want to take these wood veneer butterflies and alter them. And the way I'm going to do that is I am going to, oh wait, no I'm not. I'm going to grab the flares and the buttons because I'm not done embellishing yet. I started with the die cuts and the wood veneers, and then I went to put away those, and I'm like, oh look, there's all these buttons and flares too. I can add those. First layout with a kit, really overwhelming. Always. Too many choices, and they all match. Okay, I am going to use one of those fabric buttons. I'm going to use some of these flares. I think that's all I use is just that. And that is going to complete the embellishment. Those are just the embellishments that I chose. So I have 3 little areas that have some fun embellishments. Okay, put the butterflies away. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to do it. So I'm going to take these wood veneers, and I'm going to put a nice thick coat of the Shimmers paint on them and let them dry for quite a while. The Shimmers does dry quickly. I mean, it wasn't a terrible long time. It dries fairly quickly. But if you want to alter the butterflies and you want to really like cover them with something, I'm using a really nice thick layer. And what that does is that way the Shimmers doesn't really soak in before it dries, so you get what looks like almost like a textured enamel look. It doesn't look like wood much at all anymore. It looks like a really textured enamel top on it. And so I think that this turned out gorgeous, and I think you're going to see me painting lots of butterflies with Shimmers this month because this really worked out nice. So it's just a nice thick coat. You can see here I'm not really like using a typical kind of stroke. I'm really just kind of plopping a nice heavy layer on top of the butterfly. And they didn't warp, and they dried so nice. They really don't look like a wood. They look shimmery and a little bit textured from the Shimmers paints. Super duper pretty. So that's what we're going to do with that. I'm going to set those aside and let them dry, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere all the things that I have laid out. And I'm going to adhere the acetate with some staples, and then I also put just a little bit of glue underneath that one too. So now I have everything like double glued, right? And there are those butterflies. I very carefully put them down. And actually, they were all dry, except for the big purple one was just a little bit tacky still. But they dried pretty quickly. I added just a little bit of journaling across the bottom of my page. And now I'm just going to add a date stamp. And I will call this layout done. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad that I have so many fabulous subscribers. I'd love to hear any comments down below. Just thank you. You guys make my life happy. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will talk to you all again soon. Bye.